Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the top 10 loadouts currently within Warzone. We did have a shakeup with the Cold War weapons coming in, and unfortunately, not so many make it into the cut, but they have kind of taken over a lot of my loadouts just because some of the ones that are top tier from Cold War are definitely top tier, so we're going to integrate those into the class setups. I do leave timestamps if you just want to skip to loadouts. I do talk about some various reasons why I choose certain things throughout the video. So if you do enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. Goal in today's video is 5,000 likes, so hopefully you can help crush that number. And if you're brand new looking to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. We are getting very close to 500,000. Hopefully we can hit that before the end of the year. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I kind of have them all laid out here, and then I'm gonna go over kind of some of the philosophy around the class setup and talk a little bit about why I'm choosing certain things here. And obviously from that you'll be able to better understand what will make the most sense for you, and I'll breeze through the attachments as well. So I always have an experimental class. This is one that I change frequently. Pretty much none of these I touch until there's updates, patch notes, or something like that where it makes sense to actually change this up. Maybe when the street sweeper comes in, I'll go ahead and mix it in here. Maybe if I want to use the R9 still, I would probably put it in here. But overall, these are class setups that I pretty much do not touch. And then this one, when I'm experimenting with something new, obviously with Cold War, this gets changed out quite a bit. So let's go ahead and get into number 9. And this is a Car 98 Restock class with the Diamattis. The Diamattis are absolutely broken right now. They're better than almost every secondary, except until you get a little bit further out. They will demolish. Their TTK is way too fast, and they're probably going to be nerfed just like the Renettis were. Hopefully they don't nerf them to the ground because they're a lot of fun, and they are definitely broken at the moment. So this class is more built for if, like, hey, I already have a loadout and I'm thinking maybe I want to be a little bit more mobile. I'm going to go with the Car 98. That's why I have Restock with the Semtex grenades and the stun grenades, and with Amp for the fast weapon swap, and then EOD. I could go a little bit faster pace. The only other one you're going to go with here is double time, but I don't feel as double time is as useful as EOD, because EOD can allow you to eat several RPGs, several nades, and get you out of some tricky situations. Kind of one of those cases, better to have it and not need it, and then need it and not have it. So with the Diamatti class setup, I've already kind of broken this down on the channel why this is the one I would use. Pretty much when you run these things akimbo, they are fine individual as well. If you don't have akimbo yet, or it's locked or broken or whatever, you don't necessarily need that. But for the dual wield, I go with the 30 round fast mag, since aim down sight doesn't matter when you're actually akimbo. There's no aim down sight. You're always in the hip fire. This one gives me the best hip fire. Sprint to fire is a little bit suffering. If you feel like that's too much of a downside, obviously aim to sight, not an issue. You can go with the 5 milliwatt, which is one I like as well. Then we have the Task Force. This is the only one that's very tricky to test with the burst weapon, and we're not having true private matches. There could be another one in here that, you know, is better, but it's near impossible to test on a consistent basis with the way that we have current available to us. So I just go with the Task Force, since that's supposed to give us damage, range, and bullet velocity, which at the end of the day, we don't know if it does. And then we got the Agency Suppressor, which is going to give us that range, bullet velocity, and suppression. So it's all stacked in there like the Monolithic Suppressor. And this is a great option, especially when you come back from Gulag. If you want to go with this route or the other, if you feel very comfortable with your shot, you can go with these. But we're going to also get into another bailout class setup plus secondary class setup, depending if you want to go. I go with the Semtex just because that's a little bit easier controllable. I felt like the Thermites were too inconsistent. They do last a while, but that does give people a chance to bail out, versus Semtex really good. Frag grenades could be good too, but then it's all situational. It really depends on what you're comfortable with. Car 98, this is the main one that I know Frozone uses. It's an absolute slapper when he uses it. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the car. I normally switch more to the HDR, because it's very hard for me to be aggressive with these things, but this is definitely the class setup I would use. Monolithic, Singard 27.6, tac laser, sniper scope, and then the focus perk, so that it reduces a little bit of the flinch there. So that is number 9. Number 8 is going to be very similar. We swapped out a little bit more passive play style to go, so I can be a little bit more position, hide out. I still have a tactical, which is the stun, and the Semtex with the same Diamatti class, and then my HDR is the same one I've primarily been running for a few months now. Mono suppressor, HDR, tac laser, variable zoom, and then the FTAC Stalker Scout. And that's pretty much it. Straightforward class. This one is a one where you know that you want to be off the radar. maybe choose your snipes accordingly, and then you'll reposition to another spot, choose your snipes accordingly. This one's a little bit more of a passive loadout compared to a little bit more of an aggressive one. Then that brings us to the Grau Ghost Restock. And probably some people are like, why the heck is he using a Grau? And the Grau is one of those weapons that it doesn't need an iron sight. It's good at medium and in far ranges. It's not the best. It doesn't absolutely dominate. There's a special little perk that the Modern Warfare weapons have that the Cold War ones don't. And the Diamatti same class setup, Ghost, and then we're gonna have the restock for the other one. But pretty much monolithic, Archangel, Commando, 60 round mag. You're not gonna have the tac laser for a little bit of stability and you know, aim down sight speed, but we get fully loaded. So if you get overkill class first and you want to go ahead and switch to this, you get stocked up fully on ammo. If that's your second loadout, you don't have to worry about ammo in that case. And then also with this, you end up with something that can actually do something for you if you need to come back. If there's other weapons that you prefer, go for it. But this is the one that I typically prefer, and that's going to be my 6 and 7. Pretty much the same loadout. The only difference is Ghost and Restock. That's the only change, and these are all secondary loadouts. So this basically that, and then I have those ones there. So it kind of just depends on what you prefer. But you can see all of those are with Diamattis. Drop them for your teammate if you want. They're disgusting. Then this one actually got replaced. This one replaced the RAM setup. I used to have RAM here with an HDR or a Car 98, but for this one, the FFAR is disgusting. It just kills way too quick. It's pretty much one of the fastest killing guns, if not the fastest rifle. I think it's pretty close there with the AMAX, depending on where you get, you know, shots on. Car 98 is the exact class setup that we talked about. Again, mono, Singuard, tac, laser, sniper, scope, and focus. And then we have the FAMAS, which is agency suppressor. And then this one is the Ranger, so you get the maximum bullet velocity. Agent field grip, so that's the underbarrel there for horizontal and vertical. And then we got the 50 round, and then the Serpent. The iron sights on this thing is pretty clean. Since you're going to be using it for close to medium, you don't necessarily need it. I would get a little bit more practice with this because the recoil pattern does a little bit of a little S shape. That could be a little awkward at first, but it's not so side to side that it's impossible to control. So that's the loadout that I would use there. And then that brings us to the AMAX class setups. And yes, the AMAX is still a very good weapon. I think it adds a little bit more versatility than the FAMAS or the FFAR at range. That's where it still continues to shine. Obviously, I'm combining this one with the HDR, so I'm going to be using like 90% of my engagements with the AMAX, but if I see someone at range, I'm going to be using the HDR. So this one is a specific class setup built more for the close to medium. That's why it has a holographic sight on it. Mono, Zodiac barrel, Commando, 45 round mag, and then the hollow with the blue dot. That one gives you best range, bullet velocity, recoil control, all that good stuff. It might be a little bit slower, but it really just depends on how you want to play. A lot of times, if you're going to use a sniper rifle combo, this one's good. M4 is good still, but it's not necessarily in the meta the way that a lot of these weapons are. HDR, same thing. Mono, HDR, tac, variable, and then stalker scout. So pretty straightforward. And then you can see I have with the overkill Semtex heartbeat sensor. And that's what this one I didn't mention. It is a heartbeat sensor for my first loadout, just to guarantee I have one. Then I switch to stuns when those could be a little bit more practical. Obviously, you can use gas grenades or whatever, but stuns are generally the way to go. Then we have the Mac10 involved. This is still the same class setup, except for I swapped out the holographic sight for the BLK. And that one's just so because I'm focusing this one medium to long range. So I get a little bit extra range from the optic. Plus, obviously, the VLK helps with recoil control. So that'll help tighten it up a little bit in the stability aspect of the recoil. Then we got the Mac10. There's a lot of good classes with the Mac10. I'm really struggling to find one that I don't like because there's about 3 or 4 that I just like all 3 or 4 of them. But these are the ones I go with. I go with the SOCOM Eliminator that will sure up some of the vertical recoil since it mainly has vertical recoil. Horizontal doesn't really get impacted too bad. Then I got the Ranger Barrel for the bullet velocity. And then we got the Field Agent Grip. Obviously, that's going to help with vertical and horizontal. And then we got the 53 round mag. This thing burns through so much ammo. If you're not using this one, it can be a little bit tricky, especially when you're playing on trios and quads, which is mostly what I enjoy playing. And then obviously, if you're playing in smaller modes, you could get a little bit more mobility out of this thing, maybe going with the 43 round drum. And then you'll see it doesn't necessarily impact your aim down sight or sprint to fire there. Then the Serpent Grip, I go with that one, just aim down sight. You don't really necessarily need flinch resistance. That's normally better for a sniper or marksman rifle, and going prone is already included, so you don't really need those trade-offs. A little bit of worse sprint to fire speed. In this one, it's still very good with the MP5. I just got tired of running the MP5. You could run MP5 in parallel with this. This does have an open bolt delay, so the TTK is right in their line with the MP5. It's just this one's a lot of fun right now, so that's what people are using. That brings us up to the top 2, and this is the Kilo. It got dethroned. In my opinion, it is 100% dethroned as the #1 weapon that people use. Pretty much everything I've been watching, everything I've been seeing, pretty much everyone's using the DMR, which we'll get to. You can see I have this all set up the same thing, and then we're going to go with monolithic, Singard arms, Prowler barrel, Commando foregrip, 60 round mag, and then the 3X optic. And this also knocked down a peg just because of that stealth nerf they did that brought down whatever the distance is back in line with the multiplayer stats, so that this one isn't as overpowered, I guess. Even though it was never really overpowered, it was just too easy to use, and it's still pretty easy to use. Then we got the last but not least, the DMR. Some people wonder why I'm not using the Type. Type has more recoil, even though it has better sprint to fire, a little bit more mobility stats that are better for it for close range. This one is overall going to be a better option, especially if I'm combining this with the Mac10. Type is going to be good. Type 63 is going to be very good if you want to use it as your secondary, maybe combine it with the sniper, but it can be very unforgiving if you miss some shots, and that's always the problem with these types of weapons. So this one is going to be the agency silencer. Then we have the titanium barrel. As I showed in a video and on Twitter, the titanium barrel, it doesn't actually hurt your bullet range or velocity. It actually does the opposite. It helps it, and the task force isn't actually helping in that sense. It doesn't modify it. Pretty much end up pretty even based off my test. Match grade, it does the opposite of that. It actually worsens your effective damage range by about 25%, I believe it was. So I really wouldn't use that stuff. Use the titanium, trust me, at least until they fix it. Maybe once they fix it, the task force would be the way to go, but it didn't look like it was doing what it's supposed to. Field agent can help with mainly the vertical. That's why you really want it, because it kind of goes up and to the side, to the right. Both of the weapons actually do that, kind of go up and to the right. And keep in mind that the main reason you're using this for is the bullet velocity, even though it's not listed there. The fire rate's nice, but don't get carried away with that, because as you fire faster, it doesn't give the gun as much time to center, so it's going to give the illusion of more recoil because you can fire faster. So it's just something to be aware of. Use your trigger finger wisely, I guess. If somebody's close and you know you're going to hit your shots, you're good to go. Just because somebody's, you can, fire at 450 or whatever it is off the top of my head. I don't really know off the top of my head. But whatever it is, you don't want to be wasting shots at range just because you can. 30 round mag, you could always swap this out for lower game modes and do the Serpent Wrap, for same thing we just talked about. You could go with the Airborne Elastic, primarily for that flinch resistance, but the aiming going prone unnecessary again, and then the 3X. And that's pretty much it. Straightforward. That's my top 10 loadouts as of season 1. Hopefully we get some patch notes of some changes and some tweaks to some attachments that aren't making sense right now. Maybe there are other sleepers that'll come out of the woodwork, but in my opinion, these are the top weapons I'm currently seeing used and currently using within Warzone. Hopefully you did enjoy the video, learn something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Again, we are getting very close to 500,000 subscribers, so hopefully you can help me hit that number. If you made it to this point in the video, please double check to make sure you are subscribed. Appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.